Sonia, just before we get into the figures, earlier reports there of some of the parties' reps at the National Coalition Center leaving the coalition points. What's happening in Nigeria with regards to the concerns of these opposition parties? What are their concerns?
Good evening. Good evening.
Hello there. Good evening, Sonia.
Nothing much. They're still calling the results. Results are coming in. We've seen results for some states, and we are seeing how the various parties are turning out. Right, the three major parties: the APC, the PDP, and the LP. So far, the APC is leading in the presidential, followed by the PDP and the LP party. And people are hopeful. Initially, we heard they had issues in Lagos when Lagos was declared for LP, because they were actually expecting that Lagos would be won by the APC candidate. We heard that they had disruptions in the market for the LP supporters. But I think everything has been put under control and everything is calm now.
Okay. But the parties are no longer participating in the coalition process. Is that what's happening now?
The parties actually had issue with the chairman, because they are saying that the coalition process is just the same thing like it has been in times past, in previous elections. So they all were saying that we were promised that this election cycle will be totally different from what we've been experiencing before now. They were expecting that the use of the BVAS results would be uploaded directly to the INEC IREV coalition this thing online. But now what we are having is that they are also doing it manually. So that's what the parties are complaining about, that results have not come in from the rep officials, which is what we were experiencing before now. So they were expecting that totally this will be different, that from wherever they are, they will just upload directly to the BVAS result, directly to the IREV, and then from there, everyone could see the results. But instead, that's not what we are having now. They complain that the BVAS would not upload results. So the agents are angry. They are angry. So that's actually the problem.
Okay, let's get into the figures now. But just before we do that, the ECOWAS Observer Mission is also putting out a statement on what has transpired so far. Let's take that briefly before we get into the figures that we're receiving. Sonia, just stay with us briefly. Here are a few pointers from the Economic Community of West African States in terms of their initial pointers about the Nigerian elections, and it's dated the 27th of February 2023. So the points to note is that from the perspective of ECOWAS, most of the polling officials and ad hoc staff demonstrated inadequate knowledge of their duties, especially within when it comes to issues of the voting materials. Then the agents of the major political parties, that's the APC, PDP, LP, and also the NNPP, were present in most of the polling stations visited. ECOWAS is also pointing out that there was a use of indelible ink to indicate that a voter had cast their ballot. Some of the polling stations ran out of ink, delaying the resumption of the voting process. And then all voters were requested to present their permanent voters cards, that's the PVCs, and were accredited by the Bimodal Voters Accreditation System, which is the BVAS machine, before they were allowed to vote at all of the polling stations observed. ECOWAS is further indicating that priority was given to vulnerable persons, including the elderly, women, nursing mothers, and other persons with disability. The setup of most of the polling units visited, according to ECOWAS, did not adequately protect the secrecy of the voting process. That's a crucial point to note there, Sonia, because the PS ECOWAS feels that the process did not guarantee the secrecy of those going into the polls. Beyond that, there's the presence of international observers, AU, the European Union is also there. We have the Commonwealth, the British High Commission, and other local observer missions monitoring the elections in Nigeria. But when it comes to voter turnouts, the ECOWAS is reporting that it was generally low in most of the polling stations visited. Now, for the closing time at most of the polling stations visited, polls closed mostly at 2:30 p.m. Prospective voters were in the queue and were allowed to exercise their franchise according to ECOWAS. Now, vote counting, the tallying processes were equally carried out in a transparent, simple, and a professional manner. This is contrary to what some of the political parties are raising now in Nigeria, but ECOWAS says that was done in the presence of the party agents, the observers, and security agents in the daytime in some polling units with lamps in others where voting was delayed because obviously the process had run late into the night. However, the ECOWAS feels that the coalition sequence differed from polling station to polling station. The total votes cast were recorded first in some polling units, while in others the total votes were calculated as a total of the votes cast for each party or candidate and invalid votes at the end of the tabulation. This, however, did not lead to any major challenges when it comes to the exercise, and there was some sort of cooperative and non-adversarial relationship that existed between the electoral officials, the party agents, which facilitated the easy and efficient conduct of the elections. In the case of the beavers, there were cases where the beavers failed to accredit voters due to mainly technical issues relating to login details and configuration as well. Now, we heard of some violent incidents that transpired during the elections. ECOWAS is reporting that the process on the D-Day, or the election day as you may want to call it, unfolded in generally a peaceful environment. However, incidents of violence, killings, and disruptions were recorded in several states. The mission actually deplores the unfortunate incidents that occurred in the lead up to the election day, leading to the loss in life or in some parts of the country. These actually include the murder of the LP, which is the Labour Party's senatorial candidate for Enugu East Senatorial District, alongside some 5 of his supporters, and 3 persons who lost their lives in the Kano clashes as well between supporters of the rival APC and NNPP. On the election day as well, an attack perpetrated by Boko Haram insurgents in Gwaza local government area of the Borno state resulted in 5 persons getting injured as well. Similarly, there were reported attacks by the bandits in Alawa, Shiroro, and some local government areas in the Niger state. So here's an overview of what it is that ECOWAS is talking about. There are some general recommendations that are also being made. We'll get to that shortly, but violent incidents like others were recorded in other parts of the country as well. So for the ECOWAS mission, they are commending, of course, President Muhammadu Buhari of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the legislative bodies of Nigeria for taking measures, including the adoption of the new Electoral Act that strengthened the autonomy and freedom of the Independent National Election Commission and ensured some greater transparency, inclusivity in the electoral process. However, the ECOWAS is imploring the states and authorities to apply adequate mitigating measures in the implementation of major policy decisions during the electoral period, such as the monetary measures being currently implemented. We know of the banknote crisis in order to ease the burden on the citizens participating in that electoral process. The mission commends the INEC for measures taken to improve the level of confidence of the electorate in the elections, in proactive communications and interventions to resolve the challenges in real time. So that's the overview of the initial findings by ECOWAS giving that election. So, Sonia, let's get into the figures, shall we? We know of Oyo so far, Ogun State. What's happening to the figures, and what can you also report to us in terms of what you're receiving from your side?
As regards the figures, all results are coming in. They've not concluded for some states. We have 12 states complete now. Okay, 13.
Right.
We have 13 states now. 6 states for the APC, 5 for the PDP, and 2 for the Labour Party so far.
Is it fair to say that Tinubu appears to be leading in some of these states where the results have been declared so far?
Yes, with the results that have been declared, 6 states going to him, that means he has won those 6 states, yes.
So 6 out
But
of...
something actually happened that was not expected, like the Lagos state, which he lost, was not really expected. Though the margin was small with the figures, and then he also won majority of the local government areas. But the overall numbers went to the Labour Party candidate, and that was really not expected, given that it was the APC candidate state. So that was really something people didn't really foresee coming.
How many more do we have to go? You were talking about 13, so that makes it 13 more to go, or 23 more to go?
23 more to go. If we are at 23 more, and okay, if we're adding the FCT, then that will be 24.
Right. So that will be 24 more to go. So
Yes.
It's early to call the elections, correct?
If it's what?
It's too early to call the elections, correct?
Yeah, it's too early because looking at the requirements according to the Electoral Act, the winner, before a winner is declared, he has to have 25. He has to win. Have 25% in majority of the states, not just winning, having the numbers, but it has to be across board. So you can't just win maybe the South, and then you are declared winner. No, or winning the Southeast or the North alone. So the winning has to go across board 25%.
So what happens then if a candidate is not able to obtain all of these figures in all the states that you're talking about? Would that lead to a runoff?
Yes, that will lead to a runoff.
Generally speaking about the atmosphere in Nigeria itself, what can you report about that?
So far, the atmosphere is calm, apart from the one I mentioned earlier at Lagos in the market earlier hours of today. But so far, so good. Everything is calm now.